Hello, my name's Ken Lewenza, former president of the CAW. I was pleased to respond to a call to say a few words on the day of mourning. So let me begin. April 28th is a significant day. This will be the 30th anniversary where the governments recognize a day of mourning to recognize workers that have passed away on the job and those that were injured on the job. And for the last 30 years plus, and I say plus because it was the Canadian Labour Congress that pushed the government to recognize April 28th as a day of mourning and a day of recognizing workers and recognizing those who are injured. I repeat that because for the last 30 years, the labor movement from one community to the other have taken that day to pause, to recognize people that were killed, recognize people that were injured on the job, and recognize the incredible work we have to do every day within the labor movement to ensure workers go to work regardless of what occupation they have and go home safe for their families. That's always been the goal and objectives of the union. This year is much more significant. This year we're going into our 14th month of a pandemic where workers and citizens alike are dying in hospitals, dying in nursing homes, hospitals at maximized levels of activity. It's been an unusual 14 months. And you ask yourself, what should we mourn on April 28th? Today, we mourn those that have passed away as a result of this pandemic. We mourn and recognize those that went through the incredible sicknesses of this particular pandemic and COVID. We're still in the middle of it, and hopefully someday we'll get our lives back to order. But it's a reminder to all of us that the activism that took place 30 years has a comparison to what's going on today with a pandemic. It's all about health and safety. It's all about preserving people's lives, enhancing people's quality of life. So I say to those in the labor movement today, think about how many people passed away in isolation without their family. How many people were put into hospitals sick and couldn't get any visitation, so therefore the anxieties that they face. Think about the folks in the nursing home that on a proportional level died much more quicker, and the numbers were much more greater. And think about the reality is that the labor movement raised these weak conditions of nursing homes for quite some time now. We raised that they needed more service. We raised that they needed more respect. We raised that they needed more dignity. So what this pandemic has done is highlight all of the issues that we've been talking about for 3 decades now in terms of preserving the quality of life, not just for those at work, but those that are in hospitals, those that are at nursing homes, and as an extension to recognizing those folks, recognizing their family. So this has been a difficult year, but we again mourn those that have passed away on the job through no fault of their own. We mourn those that are on compensation and still fighting for the respect and dignity of being recognized as a comp claim, because our activists are still having those troubles today in terms of getting claims approved. In fact, I would argue it's tougher today than it was 20 years ago because of the bureaucracy of the compensation. So we have a lot of work to do on this April 28th. We recognize the last 30 years. We recognize the pandemic. We recognize the isolation that this pandemic has created. We recognize those that are injured and killed on the job in the last year. And we continue to recognize the health and safety activists